Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Horse Geeks podcast, where we look at horses and riding from the inside out. I'm Kirsten Nelsen, professional horse trainer, and with me is my co-host, Deb Romero, certified Alexander Technique instructor. So today's topic is a little turn to the practical because we've been talking about muscles and some internal operations and different, how to tell different muscle use, listening to body intelligence. And what is that all for, right?
Good point.
Why do we even need to know about that? Why spend our mental energy trying to wrap our heads
There's
around
no
things that,
space.
and the reason is because I get questions all the time. Like, for example, somebody emailed me and said, I have an issue with my horse not standing still at the mounting block
Hmm.
and bolting pretty frequently. And it's like, what do I do? And it's like, you sort of, I stumble over words and then I start with, it depends.
It
Yeah,
all all the best teachers
because
say it depends. Always, because there's no rote answer. We want that. We want it,
so,
but
yeah,
it's not that way.
I think just taking, like, let's just take the my horse won't stand still at the mounting block issue, right? And if we go back to listening to the body intelligence, to me, that becomes listening or developing our awareness of nonverbal communication, like maybe first within ourselves, but then also what horses are showing us through energy and body language and behavior. So it's like to me, thoughts plus emotional states
Ugh.
is what drives behavior. So when someone says, my horse won't stand still at the mounting block, my first impression is the horse's thoughts are something along the line of, I don't want to be ridden because I don't feel safe or comfortable or stable, right? And the emotional state could be usually horses that won't stand still at the mounting block are going to have some degree of anxiety, however else whatever we call it. They usually can't stand still. Maybe they're easily distracted. They need to move their feet, which is really a flight defensive behavior.
Right. And then I start to wonder, the way I think is what preceded that? You know, was the human present, or is the human like, oh, I've only got an hour. Let's get to the mounting block. Let's get going.
Well, that's, I think, how it accumulates
Oh,
into what we then label as a problem.
okay.
I go, maybe the horse just was anxious enough that we got on in a hurry, didn't notice the anxiety,
Good point.
and the horse was mostly standing still, so it just didn't even kind of make it to our radar that there was a little bit of tension or anxiety in the mix while we were getting on. And the more that happens, when we just sort of ignore a horse's emotional state,
Mhm.
then it typically gets louder the more it's repeated or the longer it goes on. And once it gets
That's a
to a
good point.
certain sort of volume, we go, okay, we have a problem, right? Where before we didn't consider it a problem because it was manageable. And when it starts to push on that threshold of being unsafe or unmanageable, that's when we go, okay, I have a problem. But even if I tie that back to what we talked about with muscle use and palpating muscles, I could almost guarantee that horses that don't want to stand at the mounting block are going to have that hard muscle that
Mm,
doesn't feel like raw meat, that there's going to be some chronic
nothing's
tension.
available. Yeah.
There's going to be some chronic tension going on. If it's not a green horse, I mean, we're talking about a horse that won't stand still at the mounting
Normally,
block,
yeah.
that's been ridden a whole bunch, maybe used to stand still at the mounting block and now not so much, or maybe it's worse than it's ever been and it's starting to get unsafe. And that kind of situation, it's like I almost always see, kind of like when people tell me my horse is a hard keeper. I'm already
Mm.
picturing that
That level of
chronically
tension.
with all the muscle definition that goes with
Hmm.
it. And if you palpated it, it's kind of, bounce quarters off those hard mu muscles rather than the soft suppleness that should be there. And so, when the first thing I picture when somebody says horse won't stand still at the mounting block is flight defensive behavior. So then that tells me the horse doesn't feel safe, comfortable, or stable, or the horse has um, a memory of
Mm.
feeling unsafe, uncomfortable, or unstable during the ride. And so they're kind of avoiding being ridden. But that
Right.
it's still the same underlying issue being expressed by the horse through the energy and the emotional state and the body language more than the behavior of not coming to the mounting block and waiting patiently for us to get on. Because that's what's driving the behavior is what the horse is thinking that's sort of either triggering a stress response or a
Mm.
relaxation response in the nervous system. So obviously, when we have a problem, we have a horse whose nervous system is having a stress response, which is a whole cascade of events that
Right.
ultimately not only affects behavior, but health.
Right. Or is there a pain issue? I don't,
Maybe it's an alert to us that there is a pain issue.
there is an underlying, I've seen on a lot of Facebook groups a lot of ulcer related things like that to, like girthing up or standing at the mounting block or things like that. So,
And it's
maybe.
just like us, if we're feeling under the weather, or if we have a significant health issue, we either avoid everything or get cranky about everything, just like horses. And even if we're just uncomfortable,
Right.
we tend to be a little defensive, less cooperative, maybe a little snarky, maybe a little standoffish, but it's no different. Because I find it fascinating that, like, the research I've done on nervous systems, that the function of a nervous system is really the same interspecies.
Mhm.
For all vertebrates, I don't know about non-vertebrates.
I
I've
don't
only
either.
sort of really
Yeah.
looked at vertebrates, but Candace Pert's work said really the electrochemical process of experiencing an emotion that happens in the body. She's was saying it's the most highly conserved part of evolution,
Mm.
down to single-celled animals that, it's like, wow, that's a pretty tiny little living creature. We have trillions of cells, and yet we can be we can understand what it feels like for a horse to experience fear, feeling unsafe, or contentment or happiness, right? Or excitement. Like all of those emotional states are an electrochemical process in the nervous system that the internal experience is the same across species. I go,
That's interesting because I wonder what came up for me is I wonder if people even realize that horses have emotions.
I think I laughed about it at the time. Somebody sent me a link that there's this new research done on dogs or cats or something. And the researchers were flabbergasted that, it's sort of confirmed in a double-blind study that dogs and cats have emotions. And the rest of us animal people are
Or
like,
like,
duh.
yeah. But I
You only
wonder
just figured that out?
in that moment at the mounting block, the human is like, they're already riding in their mind. You know what I mean?
They're 3 steps ahead of where they
Yeah,
actually
they're
are.
already, I've got to do my 20-meter circles today or
Well,
whatever.
and that's the power of the human brain. And then the power of the horse brain is maybe experiencing the last ride.
Right.
with maybe things didn't go so well. Maybe they were heavy to the aids. Maybe they got spurred, or maybe they got a little sting with the whip, or maybe the rider was hard on the mouth. Maybe there's just an accumulation of like discomfort from muscle tension. That's every ride is getting more and more uncomfortable for the horse. And so horses live in the memory and humans tend to live in the future.
Yep.
And so we're kind of off to the next ride in our head as soon as we step up to mount.
Exactly.
And the horse is like, I don't really think I liked what happened last time. So I'm probably not going to like what happens this time.
Let me remind you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they don't really like what happened last time for whatever reason, then they're going to start avoiding what happens before the ride happens.
Good
Right?
point.
And horses are very good at that because they have excellent memories. So it's like if they didn't like the ride, then maybe they get hard, won't stand still at the mounting block. And if that sort of doesn't get them out of the deal, or at least postpone it, maybe they fidget around or don't want to be saddled, right?
I That's so funny
Or
because the last 2 days with my new guy, he wouldn't let me catch him.
that was the final one, is that
That was
maybe they
that's the
just,
final
yes.
one. And I'm like, boy, do I need to rethink what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I totally changed the game today. So
Yeah.
I totally went, well, I'm obviously not on page with him right now. He's
And
telling
it
me something.
And it absolutely doesn't mean that what you were doing was wrong or bad. It could just mean the horse has had enough.
That's what
And
I'm thinking. I'm done
either
with that part.
I'm either done with that particular strategy, so I don't want to
Hmm.
be caught, or I just need a day off. Like
Right.
maybe his body's doing an adjustment that we know
Well, so
nothing about.
yeah, I totally changed it up. Long line, but I did it on a hill and I totally changed it and he was a completely different guy today.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he
And I
was
thought,
easy to
okay,
catch again.
yeah. Yeah, he was
And
actually hanging around the barn. So I just walked up to him and said, "Let's go and try something different."
yeah, and that's such a good example because we look at our horse that's hard to catch and never sort of think about what they're trying to communicate to us by
Hmm.
becoming hard to catch, especially if they used to be easy to catch, right? That's just information about what they think and how they feel about working with us.
Yeah,
And it's a little bit of a bitter pill to
it
swallow.
is. It's like, ah, it's not me, is it?
Yeah, kind of is. Or it's not us necessarily, it's what we're asking them to do.
Exactly.
They've either
Yeah,
hit a threshold for now
I think he did.
or
So we've been doing this for like 3 months.
Mhm.
And the last 2 days, I haven't been able to catch him. So I thought, okay,
Yeah, or
rethink it,
sometimes
rethink it.
the horses tell me I kind of need an extra day off if
Hmm.
they suddenly are avoiding being caught because usually they'll come to me or just be super easy to catch when it's
Hmm.
work time.
Yeah, that he's been that way up until yesterday
Yeah. And they
or day
always know
before.
work time because work time is different than feeding time. And so
Well,
they don't,
maybe I'll change up my times. That's true. I could do that too.
no, but it's feedback from the horse that if,
And I like looking at it that way. Shouldn't take it personal. It's just an expression.
right, right, doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean your horse doesn't love you, doesn't mean that, the relationship is broken. But sometimes people just get
Peopleizing it.
mad and they go, oh, the horse is being naughty. Like they
Hmm.
know better and they're being naughty. And I go, well, that's not going to make you nice to be around to go
Yeah,
in
really, with
with
that
that
thought,
kind of
I
thought.
think
Yeah.
people don't realize how our thinking and energy influences all of that.
Oh, yeah. If you think of how fast thoughts work, which is kind of an electrical process, and then how quickly emotional states can change, which is
Mhm.
kind of the chemical process, it's a little slower than thoughts, but it's like that's what changes the energy that is either broadcasted from the horse or broadcasted from us. And we're not as sensitive to picking up on invisible
Mm,
energy, but horses are very sensitive
yeah.
to picking up on invisible energy that we're just broadcasting by what we think and how we feel.
Hmm.
So as soon as we label the horse as naughty or bad or disobedient, it's like, ooh, that energy makes them want run away even more and not really be near us.
Mm, that's true.
And we can
Yeah.
kind of trick them or leverage them or cajole them into getting a halter on their head and getting caught. I go, we can do that. But if we keep bypassing that thought and emotional state from the horse, I
Good
find it
point.
it shows up somewhere. And
Bigger, probably much
usually at the
bigger.
worst possible moment.
Gets bigger.
Yeah. That's a horse that's not going to buck you off and wait for you to get back on. They are going to haul ass back to the barn. You're on your own.
I've had those days a long time ago, but I've experienced that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that like because horses have such good memories, that standing still at the mounting, not standing still at the mounting block can be one of the first signs that the horse is having an issue, is not having a good time being ridden. And there could be a
Right.
bazillion different reasons, but we need to start looking at that as feedback rather than naughtiness. Because when people ask me that kind
Good
of
point.
question, usually they want a technique, a strategy, step-by-step instructions for getting the horse to just stand still at the mounting block. And considering how the horse feels emotionally is not yet on the radar.
It's not our first thought, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because I kind of define obedience training is, gaining compliance despite how a horse or a person feels. That, how a
Hmm.
person feels being obedient or a horse, it's like, I don't care how you feel, just be obedient and do
Just
it.
go through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're surprised when the horse tries to use basically not standing still at the mounting block is avoidance behavior. It's an
Mm,
avoidance. It's a flight defensive behavior.
right.
So it's like, how do I get away? How do I get away? How do I avoid? And at least that thought is crossing that horse's mind for sure. Because otherwise,
I don't want to be here. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to be here. And so what's happening in the ride that's leading the horse to avoid being ridden or even to the point of avoiding being caught and
Mhm.
avoiding working with us?
Yeah.
I go, that's not exactly a mutually beneficial relationship, and when we just think in terms of obedience, it doesn't become a mutually beneficial relationship. It's a little bit more of a bad boss
It's not a
and
relationship. I
grudging,
don't consider
grudging
that a healthy,
employee.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Employee boss relationship.
not a good one.
Not a
There's
good one.
lots of
Not a
good
healthy
ones.
one.
Yeah.
Not a healthy one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we still look at animals because they don't have the ability mentally to make choice like the human brain, that because they don't have choice, they're supposed to be obedient. And I go, I think because
Hmm.
they don't have the same capacity of choice, we have to be more aware of what's working for them or not working for them.
I think we take it for granted.
Yeah, or it just bypasses our awareness
Yeah.
completely. It's
We're
just
not,
not,
we're on, like I said, we're in the future. The humans in the future saying, this is how my ride's going to go. We
yeah,
can't possibly be stuck on this. I can't deal with this. And then we get the buck or
yeah,
the bolt and wonder why.
right, right. Because that would be if you do get on and the horse is already telling you this isn't working for me,
It's a bad day.
then you're already teetering on the
Mhm.
horse trying to protect itself from you the rider. So that means anything that happens in the environment could just tip the scales.
Trigger.
And the horse is like, hang on or don't. I don't care. I'm out of here.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and it's like those big blow-ups under saddle, usually there's little warning signs, sometimes even before we get on, that that is now a higher possibility because I'm getting on a horse that's already telling me I'm not completely on board with this deal.
Yeah. And that's funny because now it comes back. I chose at the end of when I worked him yesterday to take him to the mounting block, and he stood perfectly still. I was like, "Oh, okay.
Was
Is it ride time now?"
was that a problem with him in the past
He
or
just wouldn't stand still, period.
ah
And I thought we had such an atrocious day yesterday. I thought, "Okay, I'm not getting it. Let's try standing at the mounting block."
and he's like, that's
That
about
was
my
like ding
speed
ding
today.
ding ding.
Yeah.
Way to go, human.
No, and especially starting young horses under saddle or rehabbing horses that have had pain and lameness issues, the mounting block to me is part of skill development.
I like that. I like the thinking that way. Yeah. To me it is too.
And
If
even though I can mount from the ground, and it's like I started using a mounting block, number one, because it doesn't pull on these horses, young or rehab cases. It
right,
just doesn't pull on their back as much if we get on from something up higher, whether it's a fence or a mounting block, or I often use a bucket upside down. I go just a little something to get me up higher. And even though it's easy for me to mount from the ground, the other thing that the mounting block is testing to me is if I begin the mounting process by standing on the mounting block. And if they
yeah,
pull me off, push me off, drag me around, won't stand still, circle the mounting block for 10 minutes, I go, all of that is really important information
right.
about how this horse feels with me up in
Up
that
higher. And
position.
sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big deal for my older mare. She just pins her ears and it's like, I just hate it when you're there. So funny. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Or with young horses, like mounting from the ground, you can get up and over, and it's the first time the horse is seeing a human on their back from that
Oh,
perspective, and you can have a big,
big
oh
blow
my
up.
God moment.
Oh my
Yeah.
God moment.
So, like mounting from the ground, is a technique where you get halfway up and down and halfway up and
Right,
down. But I go, if I just stand on a mounting block and they overreact, I go, we can kind of deal with it in a way that's safer and easier for the horse and for me.
right.
So I start with standing on the bucket or on the mounting block or sitting on top of a top
Mhm.
rail of a fence and just try to get my body basically up into where it would be if I were in the saddle and see what the horse has to say about that.
And that was interesting because my guy, yesterday, he just stood there. I laid over the top of him and he was like, "Oh, this is cool. Why didn't we do this sooner?"
I love the mounting
I
task.
like this. This is great.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I get it now.
Well, and there's a bazillion techniques out there that people have showed me and tried to get a horse to stand still at the mounting block. And I go, essentially, it's pretty simple. Make it a place of relaxation, not a
Mhm.
place of negative anticipation. I go,
Right.
change that perception and you don't have the
Change
problem.
your energy around that and like
Yeah.
don't be present with I'm at the mounting block. And that's pretty much all my work is to be present and pause and check in like, how are we doing here?
Or make it part of training. Like I'll tell
Yeah,
people with fear issues or young horses, and they're still in the groundwork phase before they start getting on and riding, I go at the end of your groundwork session, leave 10 to 15 minutes. you go stand on the mounting block and don't ask your horse to do anything.
That's what I did. After the horrible work session we had, I said, let's go hang out at the mounting block. Let's see if that soothes everybody. And that was a game changer.
Yeah,
Game
yeah.
changer. And just hung out, did no expectations, nothing, no asking questions, just
Well, and
hang out.
you always like to tell that story when you were, I think, your first year of Alexander Technique School, which was like 5 days a week, very intense,
Mhm.
lots of work on your own body and nervous system, that you had days you would go into school and just get a blankie and go lay in the
In the
corner.
corner, and it's like, just get us done. Everybody would check in. You okay? You want to join us? No,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah, because the whole body, when you start effectively changing coordination and
Mhm.
behavior and emotional states and all of that, it can be overwhelming. So a
It
horse
is
that's,
overwhelming. You just kind of short circuit.
yeah, so usually if one of my guys in training, it gets a little hard to catch, I go, oh, maybe it's a spa day. Maybe we go work on any exercise that involves standing still, which is going to be
Right.
your mounting block, right? But it could
Hmm.
also be saddling, girthing,
Yeah, I did that
bridling.
too. I threw a saddle on him. I did everything I hadn't done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything that involved
Anything different.
the speed of halt.
The
It was
speed of
like, okay,
fault.
we forget halt is a gait,
Yes.
right? And some horses can't maintain halt. So I go, we can work on halt today because there's a bazillion things we do with horses while we're asking them to stay at halt. And the
Hmm.
mounting block is one of them. So,
Yeah,
and
mounting block, farrier. We did a spa day, everybody got clipped and groomed and bathed and all that.
yeah. And to me, all of that standing still t time and different things we have to do with the horse at halt, I also look at that as bonding time, which is just as
Hmm.
important as the training. So I go, it's a place where we just get to relax, chill out, spend time together, which is what horses do best with their herd mates, is just spend time together.
That's a
And
really good point because I don't think I've been doing that. And obviously, he's letting me know that.
yeah,
Let's
I
just
need
hang
some
out and eat
bonding time.
carrots.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Good
sit and
point.
watch a
Point.
movie,
Let's
right?
movie night.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense. So thank you for that. I gotta change it up.
Yeah. But it's like we want to address hard to catch, won't stand still at the mounting block, won't stand still for the saddle or the girthing, tries to bite me. Like we just put it under the heading of naughtiness and how do I fix it? And I'm like, it's really information that the horse is trying to communicate to you
Hmm.
through behavior, what they think and how they feel about things. And
Right.
horses kind of don't hold back. You're going to get the whole truth, whether you like it or not. And if we look at it as feedback, we can build the relationship around that.
That's a good
When
point.
when we look at it as naughtiness, we just become more and more of a pain in the ass to our horse, and
I've got
maybe
to tolerate
literally.
this. And some horses just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
They don't. And that's when you get the explosion of some
That's when you
sort.
get the
The buck, the
behavioral
spook, the
problems.
whatever,
Hmm.
running you into the fence.
Yeah, and it was a big transition in my career as a trainer, shifting from that sort of human ego-driven need to prove to myself and everybody else that I could stay on and ride through a buck, a bolt, a rear, a major meltdown, whatever it would be, right? And that really kind of feeds the human ego. And when I started looking at it sort of from Candace Pert's lectures, going, oh, emotional states kind of feel the same. What is my horse feeling about this? And it was so interesting because I went, as a trainer, why am I taking any horse to that level of stress where they feel
Hmm.
the need to buck, bolt, or rear.
To
That is a
express
really,
themselves that way. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really intense level of stress, or we could call it fear by that point. The horse is in
Mm.
fear
Fight or
or
flight. Yep.
in pain, and they're giving us the most extreme behavior possible, screaming at us that this is
That's
not
a good
okay with
point. It
them.
is screaming at us.
Yeah.
That's
And
their
I,
way of screaming.
yes. And so I
Yeah.
went, why am I doing that? Like I just felt horrible at ignoring how the horses were feeling until it got to that point. Kind of hoping it wasn't going to go there, but you're never quite sure, and you got to ride it if it happens. And I went, wow, we could actually be a little smarter instead of tougher.
Yeah, really need to put our ego on the table before we go to the barn, that's for sure.
Yeah, and after years and years of jumping, racing, galloping, proving I could keep up with the cowboys on some Yahoo horse, it's like all of a sudden people around me thought I was scared to ride because I was, my horses were so quiet.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. I
And
personally
so, well,
like,
it makes horses feel good on the inside to resolve stress and feel safe and
and
to
to
be
know, and that's a trust issue, I would think, with the human too. If I don't feel like I can trust you to take care of my emotional state, why would I want to hang around with you?
exactly.
Not same with humans, right?
Right. And we're asking horses to trust us all the time and go against their
Trust me,
instinct
don't just ignore your thoughts and self,
or ignore your own instincts. Go in
right?
that stall, get in that trailer, come and have a halter put on your head. Right. It's like all of these things we take for granted in the domestic environment are not natural to horses.
Right.
And we're constantly asking them to overcome their instincts, but we aren't looking at ourselves. Are we overcoming our instincts? Because it's kind of a fight response. When the horse is
Hmm.
hard to catch, we get pissed.
Hmm.
And we're like, naughty horse, bad horse, right? And that's just us going into instinct, just like me trying to prove I could stick on anything
Hmm.
until I realized I'm riding a terrified horse.
Yeah.
Why am
Not
I
a
letting? Why
not
am
a
I
pleasant.
why am I letting the horse feel that way as part of what I'm calling training?
Hmm.
Like, we don't really have to go to that level of fear. There are other ways to build trust, bond, develop kind of a calm, cool head as we go. But it slows shit down quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like the Alexander technique. It slows shit down big
Yeah,
time.
it does. And so people would look at me going, "What is she doing?"
Can't keep up with the Joneses.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you suddenly look very different as working with your horse when you start to kind of read your horse's emotional state or mental focus, kind of reading their thoughts, which is deeper than the behavior.
It
I
is.
go,
It's a much deeper layer.
yeah, because the thoughts and the emotions lead to action.
Hmm.
So are the thoughts and emotions leading to an action against us from a horse? Or are the thoughts and actions leading to, or sorry, are the thoughts and emotions leading to actions that are sort of trying at least to be
Hmm.
cooperative and work with us? And that's just from how they feel on the inside, what they think about us, what they think about our training program, what they think
Right.
about leaving their buddies, all of that stuff,
Hmm.
right? It's just information
Right. We need to not take it personally or try to shove it down.
or just
We
ignore it.
or ignore it. We need to
Yeah.
be with it and try to figure it out and be curious to say why. Why are we here?
Yeah, because when I get behavior-based questions, I go, in my mind, behavior is the outcome. That's the
Exactly.
result
That's the result of internal.
of what already happened internally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the bigger and badder the behavior is, the more intense those thoughts and emotions, or chronic, cumulative, however you want to look at it, it's now a big deal. And now we've got to work our way back, which, to me, trust, whether it's with people or horses, I go, it is hard earned and easily lost. And
Yes.
I think a cowboy said that to me once, and I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
And that was what was happening when I was sort of in my ego, sticking on whatever the horse threw at me. I was breaking trust in
Big
that
time.
ride.
Hmm.
The horse is going, you have nothing but dumb ideas, and I have to protect myself from
Hmm.
you dumb idiot, right? And I'm like, ooh, look at what I can ride, right? And meanwhile, the horse is in panic or fear or pain and really just thinking,
Or shut down. I mean,
I never want to see this dumb trainer again. Like that is not on my list of things to do is work with this particular person because either that person is scaring the horse or that person is not helping that horse when they're afraid, when the horse is afraid, either not helpful or the cause.
mhm.
And I went, okay, at least I can not be the cause. Like
Right.
that is under
Hopefully.
my control as a trainer. Don't be the cause of the stress or the fear or the worry
Hmm.
or whatever. Be the solution.
Right. Right.
And that really changed everything. But things had to get kind of slow and they were quiet. And so instead of like, wow, that's a great trainer because she can ride anything, it became
What are you
she gets
what are
paid
you
to do that.
doing?
I know.
I get that. I can't
What are
imagine
you
what my neighbors
doing?
think. She's riding bareback and walking
Yeah. Or
in
what is she
circles.
doing
What?
standing on the mounting block doing
Yeah.
nothing?
Yeah.
Like, why is she just standing there? Why doesn't
That's
she get
that. And
on?
because we are, as humans, we are doers, whereas horses are into being,
Oh,
just
yeah.
being where we want to do something. So there's, to me, is the clash. We kind of have to let go of the doing of it all and just be with the horse.
Yeah. That is their main bonding
Hmm.
activity, being close, being with another horse. And we don't think of it as bonding. You're right, because we're not doing
Hmm.
anything. Because we kind of look at it, and I'll tell people this because people want to demonstrate affection to their horse or they want affection from their horse. And we look at it from the perspective of the human predator way of showing affection. And I
Hmm.
go, horses are not puppies. Like
No.
they're not kittens. I go, like puppies and kittens and babies snuggle. Like we touch, we embrace, we hold, and that's how we show affection. I go, what horse snuggling looks like is just chilling.
Out
It's
all
like
together, breathing,
we're just kind of
being in
near
the
each
same
other.
space. Yep.
Nobody's touching each other. That's horse snuggling.
Nobody's talking.
Right.
Good boy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how horses snuggle. And it's like maybe they groom each other a little mutually, or the physical touch is part of the close, trusted relationship, right? But not always.
Right.
Like two of my geldings who just love each other. When I turn them out in the pasture in the morning, they take a few minutes to do mutual grooming before they even head out to grass. It's
Yeah.
like they just
It's
love
because
each
they
other.
need that. And they do it only with each other. It's not like everybody can do that.
No, it's just those two,
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
those
It's
two.
very selective.
They groom each other like they go nose to tail and kind of lip each other and groom each other with their mouth and nose. And they do that at least 5 minutes before they even walk down into the field and start eating grass.
Right.
But they don't do it all day.
Right.
What they do all day is they're within the vicinity of each other. They
And
move
their
around.
their field of energy is much bigger than ours.
Yeah, if they're within 10 to 20 feet of each other,
Right.
they're still snuggling.
Yeah. It's funny.
But yeah, I go, people try to show or receive affection from horses like a puppy, like a
Mhm.
kitten, right? And I go, it doesn't work that way.
Like a predator, unfortunately.
Right. Because even if you think of little
Hmm.
foals with other foals or their mother, there's more hangout time than there is physical touch time.
Right.
Yeah, that
It's
physical
spatial.
touch.
It's spatial.
Right,
Very much so. Yeah.
right. They snuggle from uh, a distance.
Yes.
Snuggling from a distance.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there anything else like any other kind of questions like that? Like the mounting block question is always so interesting to me because to me
Hmm.
there's nothing easier than going and sitting on a mounting block and just waiting for my horse to choose halt and
I like
bring
that
the
language.
energy down.
People need to take that waiting for my horse to come to halt
Mhm.
instead of anticipation. It's that pause and be present.
Yeah. So if I
Yeah.
have a horse dancing around the mounting block, I just look at my watch to see how long it's going to take before they choose halt. And then usually they choose halt knowing exactly where the saddle needs to be. They're going to avoid that. They go, okay, I can halt, but not within you getting
Not
on
that,
distance.
not that next step that we want to do. We anticipate. Okay, they halted. Let's get on.
Right. Hurry, hurry, hurry. They might move,
I got to ride.
right? So I go, when they can maintain a halt for 5 minutes, I go, that's a horse that's just easier to get on. It solves the problem. And even if the halt isn't in the right position at first, I
It's a
go,
halt.
it depends on how bad or how chronic the problem was. I go, I might be happy with that the first day or two, right?
Well,
And
and that's a good point because as an Alexander teacher, we're taught we have the choice to walk away. If we are not physically, emotionally in the right space to do the activity, we forget we have a choice to walk away.
yeah, yeah, or that mounting is a learned skill for a horse,
Hmm.
right? And I go, all of my horses, I'm kind of an essentially lazy creature. So when I stand on top of a mounting block, they all come up and parallel park.
Yep,
Like there's no dragging, there's no whipping, there's no tapping. They just go, okay, I'm ready for a ride. And they come up and bring the saddle to me. And
right,
that's a horse who really wants to be ridden. That's a horse that,
right.
and what I find hilarious is I go, I don't think I've ever had a horse that took longer than about a week to get them confident and feeling safe and secure with mounting at the mounting block as a skill. But people put up with it for years. I go, and the
Wow.
funniest thing is watching somebody chase a horse around with a mounting block. Like they
I
pick it
tried to do that with this
and
young
move
guy.
it.
I kept moving the mounting block. He just stood there. I'm like, okay, we're good with this.
Yeah. And you watch people whose horse won't stand still at the mounting block and they put the mounting block next to the stirrup and they get on top. And as soon as they're up
They
there, the
walk.
horse moves. And then they get down, move the mounting block.
There's your sign.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes just standing up there waiting for the horse to choose halt is letting all that stress dissipate. Like nothing,
Decelerate. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Let them
nothing
do
bad's
laps.
happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I tell people this is your time to pause and check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Where am I emotionally, energetically? How am I? Am I feeding the problem or am I helping?
I had an Andalusian broodmare that when I started with her, 20 minutes going around the mounting block. And I was getting so dizzy I had to just pass the lead rope or the reins behind my hand. Because I put the reins over her head and I just had to kind of pass them behind my back as she went round and round. 20 minutes of
That
circle, a
level of
tiny,
anxiety.
tiny circle around a two-step mounting block before she could choose halt. And
Choose halt. Choose halt. That's an important little phrase.
yeah, because if we try to make a horse halt that wants to move their feet, That's basically shaking up a can of soda and then popping the lid off.
I
That's
like
like
that.
it's
I
gonna be
like
bad.
that. It's gonna be bad in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, because and that's why it is often like that's a very common question. Like, what do I do? My horse won't stand still at the mounting block. Oh, and also bolts. I go, that's because if you're trying to force the horse to stand still at the mounting block, you're shaking up the soda bottle. And once
Yep.
you get into the ride, it could be you or anything in the environment that suddenly pops the cork.
Yeah. Good point.
And
It could be
out
the
comes the
environment, and you
fizz.
think there's the spook, there's the buck.
Yeah. And then we blame the neighbors or
You have
somebody
to have
else
it
at the
perfectly quiet
barn.
to ride.
That's right. But it was already starting by making a horse stand still that isn't voluntarily standing still, knowing they're not dummies. They know we're going to get on. The saddle's on, the bridle's on,
No,
you're up high.
hmm
They know the drill.
exactly.
Yeah. So when we try to just make it all happen, I go, good luck, wear a helmet, maybe a
Wear a
flak
vest.
jacket. Yep. Yeah. You're going to need them. But when you have a horse that's cooperating and relaxed, it's like the odds of a big explosion or a dangerous situation with a horse, they just go way down. You start hedging your bets
Yeah.
because they're just not as quick to react from a relaxed state as they are from already being in a state of stress.
Mhm.
That's a reaction waiting to happen, where at
Good point.
least if you try to have some calmness, then they can still react, but usually you have a few warning seconds or it happens either less intensely or less frequently. Still a horse.
Right.
But but I'm glad you took Milo to the mounting block and he was like,
Good old Milo.
yeah. And
Yeah.
after 3 months of hard work changing his coordination, he's like, this whole mounting block thing is not the worst idea.
That's exactly what he said.
He's like, this I can do.
It only took me 2 days of not being able to catch him to go, well, I got to change my game, obviously.
Yeah. And that's where anything we do with the horse that involves standing still or bonding is exactly what I do as soon as a horse is hard to catch, before it
Yeah, I'm gonna
escalates
do more
any
of it
farther. Yeah.
because he's been a good boy up till now. I mean, like you said, 3 to 4 months of very intense stuff to get him organized. And he's probably saying, hey, I got it. Can we move
He's going
on?
time out, time out. I need a pause. I need the
I need
corner.
to
I need the
pause. Feed me a
blankie.
carrot for Christ's sake, would you?
Do something nice.
Yeah, really. What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
Oh, too funny.
Bad boss.
Bad boss.
Okay, we
Exactly.
better wrap it up.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us once again for another episode. We hope you enjoy our conversations. We hope it helps you with your horse. And thank you for the subscriptions, the downloads, the likes, the shares, the comments, all of that. Wonderful. So thanks very much. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.